in this south yard there's a number of boats that they're being worked on and just stored. Here's my boat. It's a 47-foot Vagabond, about 24 tons. I've owned it for approximately 4 years and have been working on it, renovating it, and my dream has been to go to blue water, as I've already told you. And my challenge is the next 10 months she's going to be ready to go, come hell or high water. A project of this size is rather daunting for someone like myself. While I think I'm fairly clever, this is probably beyond my means as far as knowledge goes. So this boat, like I say, she's a 47-foot Vagabond. She was designed by a man named Bill Gardner, and she's a noble boat, and she may have a few issues and some, how would I say, a few problems that we're going to rectify. She's well worth the effort. And so lucky me, my good friend Joe Berta here has agreed to sign on the crew and keep me straight, as it were. Hi Joe, thanks for coming out.
Good morning, Capt.
Hey, nice to see you. Thanks for coming out this cold day.
Cool.
Joe's been a surveyor for 20 years, 24 years?
Something like that.
Okay, and we've known each other for about 5.
Yes, sir.
So tell me a bit about yourself and...
Well, my job is to survey boats, and I like my job. It's like being a sleuth. You go on a boat and you try and find out as much as you can about it. You snoop around, and it's a matter of observation and non-destructive testing. It's what we do.
Okay, so like I say, I've been working on this boat. I think I'm at a certain level of completion, and Joe's going to tell me where fact meets fiction. So what we're going to do is basically do a survey on the boat, Joe.
Yes, we're gonna do a survey with your offshore voyaging in mind. We're gonna try and find out as much as we can about her structural condition, what we need to know to beef up where it needs to be beefed up in order for the boat to go offshore safely. And then you also indicated to me that you want to explore chartering opportunities. Mm-hmm. For which perhaps a little more creature comforts are needed than for a single guy who lives on a boat. Mm-hmm. So all these things we're taking into consideration as we go along.
Okay, so right now what we'll do is we'll go and have a first look at it. Joe knows the boat over the past few years, but he's never actually done a survey on it. So what we'll do is we'll go through the survey and we'll see where we actually are here.
Rolling.
Okay, so here we are. We'll start out with the bottom of the boat. Usually I do a lot of walking around and a lot of looking. The longer I look, the more things I discover. Mm-hmm. What we have here is a moisture meter. It's a pretty clever device. We lay it on the substrate, and it basically has a needle on it. It tells us how much moisture is in the substrate.
Okay, so what's that showing us now?
So we're seeing nothing there. We're using this as a reference point. Mm-hmm. And then we move down into the hull. As you can see, when we get into the wetted areas of the hull, we start seeing a little more moisture.
Yeah.
However, this instrument needs to be interpreted, mm-hmm. and it needs to be interpreted with some level of experience with the instrument itself. So which I have because I've had it for a number of years. And then we have a little tapping hammer here, which is the old tried and true method that we've been using for decades, long before these things. Mm-hmm. And we tap at the hull and we look for delaminations and little voids and whatnot, and we get to learn what we're looking for as we're going along.
Kind of like tuning a piano or something.
Exactly. Takes a bit, but
okay.
When you've done it for 20 years, you get really good hang of it. So usually I start out on things that are most in your face. Like here, for example, we have a number of through hulls. We'll lay the moisture meter around the through hulls because that's usually where we would have major problems. Although in this case we have a boat that's built with what we call a single series laminate, mm-hmm. which means there is no core in the bottom of this hull, which is the way we like it. We don't want core in the bottom of real boats.
Exactly.
So this is a solid fiberglass boat. Usually we don't have major wetting issues with solid fiberglass.
Delamination.
Or anything like that, mm-hmm. yes. When we get into cored bottoms, then the core likes to suck up moisture and so on. So we see now, we have a through hull here that's plugged with a wooden plug. Obviously it's something that you're not using.
Yeah.
We don't like to see that, so what we're going to do, we're going to recommend that anything like that be either eliminated or used for something useful purpose.
Well, as you know, I plan on getting rid of as many through hulls as I can, so we're
Sure.
going to try and incorporate. And over the past couple of years, I've replaced 1 or 2 here and there.
Yeah.
But these will either disappear or get replaced or incorporated, as I'm hoping
Yeah.
that
And
will be Joe's advice.
Yeah, and it
of
will be
course.
important that we sit down and we draw out a plan of action, because we don't know how many through hulls we want to get rid of until we know what kind of equipment we're going to put into the boat to make your life easier down south.
Exactly. Okay.
So right now we're at the stage of looking at the hull, looking at whatever comes into view here. We have a 3-bladed bronze propeller. It's a left-hand turning propeller because it's marked so. It's 26 inches by about 18-inch diameter. It's a little bit hard to read, but I think it's 26 by 18.
We'll take your word for it then, shall we?
This is a hull zinc. This is a sacrificial zinc anode. Unfortunately, it was installed with ferrous metal fasteners, which is a no-no. So you can see the corrosion of the fasteners already happening. There is no wastage of the zinc anode itself because you're in fresh water. When you get into salt water, this will be a very important piece of your boat.
Yes.
Because this is what's keeping everything else that's metallic in the boat good. This goes away. This is sacrificed while everything else that's metallic stays good in your boat.
The ocean will eat your boat eventually if you
Salt
don't put
water
zinc.
will eat it up. Everything up. Now, we turn the prop a little, and we pick up on the blades to check the cutlass bearing for wear. The cutlass bearing is what's in here, and it's a bronze piece of tubing with a rubber insert bearing surface that the propeller shaft rides on. And I don't feel any wear. However, if we shine a flashlight onto the rubber, they'll come on over here. You can see that the rubber is cracking and is very old.
Oh yeah, I see that.
So if you stayed on Lake Ontario for the next few years, I would say, okay, leave it alone. There's nothing wrong with it. But since you're going into salt water, I'm going to suggest that gets replaced.
Okay.
Because there's no sense leaving with a bearing that's probably as old as the boat is.
There you go.
And then there's another little pet peeve of mine here. The sequence of these propellers is wrong. Propeller securing knots is wrong. The way it should be the other way around, with the largest knot being on the exterior. The way we put a propeller on is that we fit it on real good, and then take this knot, torque it really heavy on as much as we can, then take the big knot off, put the smaller one on, put it on good, and then put the big one and take the load off the small one by a really heavy torquing.
Oh, okay.
And that locks the two together.
Yep.
Trying to get this one to take the load off of the big one,
Not fair.
it's not right.
Okay.
Okay. Here's another zinc.
The gudgeon.
There's another. I think that's a zinc.
I made that. Yeah, I made that.
Okay,
actually.
I was gonna say it's a homemade zinc.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I could see that the gudgeon here was. You can see all the pitting here.
Yes, the rudder shoe or gudgeon.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. That's another thing that I would recommend, that before you do any major traveling, that gets taken off and either a new one made or reconditioned or something that you can do with it. The pitting you see is galvanic corrosion because previously the boat, when it was in salt water, probably did not have.
No, it didn't.
A zinc.
Actually, no, I put that on there because I saw what was going
Yeah,
on.
exactly.
Okay. The rudder.
So the rudder on sailboats is usually problematic, and in this case, we put the moisture meter on the rudder.
Jesus Christ! That's not good. I can tell that.
There's a big difference between the two. They're the same thing.
Okay.
These are both fiberglass
Yes, I know.
laminates. I call it sometimes FRP. When I say FRP, that means fiberglass reinforced polyester. So we're looking at the polyester substance here that's wet, and this one is dry.
Yep.
So there's also evidence of fracturing. You can see fracturing up here at the top of the rudder post. And that's usually where water likes to enter a sailboat's rudder.
Well, there's also a crack here.
And
Joe,
then
on the
if
front
you
end
if
here.
you look at it all the way down along here, there's already fracturing happening.
Yeah.
So this rudder, well, it's another one of those things. If you were staying on the lake, I would say it may have a year or two left in it. But because you're not staying on the lake and you're going somewhere, I'm going to say this should be done before you leave here.
Okay.
And when this gets taken
Can
off,
do you think I can repair it, or I'll have to rebuild one?
you can repair these.
Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, we'll look at that.
What they do is they cut them in half.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Because
Record
actually,
them,
if I'm not
and that's
mistaken,
it.
there's the post, and there's welded tabs.
Oh sure,
across here.
absolutely. Yeah, there's a steel framing in there, and there's a cord in there.
Okay.
Now when this comes off, that'd be a good time to play with the gudgeon.
Yeah.
And also, while it's off, we can see some fracturing happening right in here of the skeg laminate.
Let me get that cable out of your way there.
And when the rudder is off, we're gonna want to see what the extent of that fracturing is. Probably not much, but what we want to do is we want to grind it out
Yep. See where
and
it goes
fill it
to.
and repair it.
Okay.
So we'll move along. Okay, what we have here is a dyna plate, which is a grounding plate for radio grounds and lightning protection, that kind of thing. We have some filler here that appears to be haphazardly put on.
I'll take blame for that.
Oh, okay. Now,
I was just
why did you? What was there under there before you put the filler?
It was some chips that I'd run into a few rocks, and I just
Oh,
wanted
okay.
to cover it up for the time being. It was a temporary.
So we're looking at it, and it does not appear to be holding moisture. What little bit you see on the scale of the meter is inconsequential. And we do a little bit of tapping. Certainly sounds real good and solid. There does not appear to be any delamination or any saturation,
Voids or whatever.
voids or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I noticed we have that filler on both sides of the keel. here
Yeah,
and there.
it was parked somewhere,
so
and
on-
I scraped
Okay,
something.
more so on the starboard side and the port by the looks of it.
Okay, good.
And then
Now where do we go?
as we proceed along, again we're looking at the hull. We see that this laminate is very nice and dry.
Beauty.
It's keel, an empty keel with some concrete even if
All right,
if you need more ballast.
moving on.
Moving on. Again, we have a little bit of filler here on the stem, high up here. Is this also your handiwork, Captain?
Once again, I'll take credit
Okay.
for that.
Okay. Well, that's fine. It's obviously covering up some dockage-related impact damage. Nothing major. Not holding moisture. We're good, right? And more importantly, it's holding very well.
Good.
If nothing else, it's a little cosmetically.
Well, we'll fix that.
Yeah.
We'll fix that. Okay.
So
Moving round to port side.
along here we have more through hull fittings, and we look at the through hull fittings for signs of what is called dezincification, because the through hull fittings are made out of bronze, which has a lot of zinc in it, and eventually the zinc leaves the composition of the metals, and it becomes porous. Once the metal becomes porous, again we can hear when it becomes porous. So we're tapping.
That doesn't sound good to me.
This
What do you
particular, it sounds okay.
Oh yeah.
It sounds okay.
But what about the pitting here? Because this is an old one. I replaced this when
Yeah.
I bought the boat because actually it was leaking and it scared the heck out of me. So anyway, I replaced this one here. So here you can see the difference between old and new.
Yeah. So that's a new one up
That's
there
a new one too.
Okay.
But I want to make that one disappear over there.
Okay.
Because I don't like it. You'll see why when we're inside.
Okay. Well, in spite of the fact that this does not appear to suffer from dezincification issues, certainly, if you want to replace an old through hull, I'm a big fan of that.
I'm
Replace
thinking
all
we
the
could-
old ones with new ones if you have the time and the money to do so. Oh,
I'm thinking,
absolutely.
if I'm sure where this is, I think what I'm hoping I can do is make that one disappear and use that for both.
Sure.
Well, and we'll see about that down. We'll see about that down the road. We'll make a plan. We'll make a plan.
Yeah. Well, as we're
Okay.
coming along, by the way, I should also point this out that we don't see any osmotic blistering issues on this hull, which is a very good thing. So, a little bit of hairline cracking of the... In very few spots I see tiny little hairline cracks in the gel coat, which is actually for the boat's age is pretty good.
Okay.
Because a lot of times we're dealing with we're not dealing with a new boat, so what we're looking at here is the things that we see should be consistent with normal gradual deterioration, and certainly little tiny cracks in the gel coat is just that. Certainly not Surveyor or anything that we should not see in a boat of this age.
Well, and not hard to address.
No,
Okay.
no.
Alrighty.
Now when we come up here, I see more fill.
That's me.
Okay.
I'm not sure what that was now at this point in time, to be honest with you.
Now this whole area here, from about here to about here, appears to have received a good sideways blow from a dockage impact or a piling or something. Because what you see in the gel coat, these little crazing fractures, those are all indicative of an impact that had blown into the laminate this direction. The fiberglass laminate has the ability to bounce back and not be hurt, but the gel coat is so brittle that it doesn't take very kindly to bending back and forth. So what happens is we have this spider cracking or crazing or whatever name people give it when you impact something.
Right.
And that's probably what you covered up here too, right?
Might well have been, yeah. And there's also some cracking around the portals that I want to address at some point or other.
Yeah.
And we'll have a look at.
But this is not an issue. This is something that happened at one time. Now, the only issue in it is that the gel coat had suffered failure on account of
Okay.
paint, if nothing else for cosmetic reasons.
Okay.
As far as the gel coat condition of the bottom is concerned right now, I would say that it is not at a point where I would spend a lot of effort in getting rid of gel coat below waterline and going with a moisture barrier like Interprotect 2000 and epoxies that people put on because they're scared that their gel coat is no longer doing its job of protecting the FRP laminate, which is a polyester laminate, and then polyester has water-soluble components. The gel coat is there to protect it. But I think this gel coat is still in pretty good shape. Fall apart or sink anytime soon.
All right, well, let's go inside and see what's going on in there.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now we're on board the boat. We're up in the bow area, and Joe's going to address my bowsprit and any other wood problems here.
Well, we know the decks have recently been addressed to some degree. We have the bowsprit here. It's a long sprit, and we can only get to about half of it. We can't really conclusively report on it. We know up here is dry, but once this cover comes off, we're going to have to get underneath the wooden piece, so we can. This is actually a laminated mahogany piece of timber here we have bolted through. You have some issues with caulking here. That's always a bad thing to leave because water gets in everywhere. Moisture ingression is the biggest problem we have with boats. So whenever you see anything like this, the first thing you got to do is go after it and fix it.
Okay.
But I don't see any problems here.
Okay.
These things I don't like because it's those are a good way to take skin off your knuckles.
Those are actually temporary, Joe, and I'll explain why at the bar later at Stryner's Engineers.
Okay, but I see it, so I need to say something about it.
And eventually this is going to disappear, and this will be a Samson post here instead, and I'm going to exchange that for a horizontal. so it feeds properly. We've addressed that a little bit here.
So this capstan's gonna go, and you're gonna go with a windlass further up forward here.
Okay. Moving on.
Moving on. What we're gonna do now is look at some of these little cracks.
They're everywhere, mate.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. We have no moisture, so cracking, gel coat cracks, gel coat fractures are almost par for the course in the life of a fiberglass boat. So eventually everything flexes a little bit, and gel coat does not flex. It wants to crack, so it cracks.
Okay.
So it's not something that that I would consider anything other than cosmetic in this region, anyways.
Okay, good. All right.
Let me just take a quick peek over on this side too. Right around these fair leads, we're always looking for moisture in the laminate, which we don't have anything. It's good. Oops, we got a little bit of moisture here.
That doesn't surprise me, because I think this is one of the places.
This is a bad spot right here. This is a bad spot.
I've been expecting that. I think there's a bunch of moisture in there.
As you can see when we clean everything off, you see the fractures in the gel coat. Those are indicative of moisture in there expanding in the winter and and cracking open. It sounds like it's got some delamination issues in there.
Okay.
But it doesn't sound totally saturated either. So what we need to later on determine is if there's any kind of a wooden core in here, or is it solid? There is.
Yeah. That's the one that hasn't been replaced. When
Okay.
when this deck was originally replaced, they put styrofoam core in there, or whatever the foam core is.
Foam core, yeah.
I don't think they ever got to here.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I know they never got to here.
Okay.
So
So-
we'll look at that.
Okay.
Good.
Well, when this comes out,
Yeah.
that'd be a really good time to mess with all that.
Yep. Perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
Excellent.
I need to write this down. So
Okay. Recording? Okay, let's go, Joe.
okay, here we are now. This is where our main mast is footed on deck. And again, we're getting some moisture in the substrate, and this is an important area because this is a load-bearing surface to some degree. Of course, we have a compression post going from here to the keel of the boat,
Exactly.
but still, we're going to look at this area closer. Again, when we get a chance to get below, we're going to look at this area closer.
Okay.
And you have a little plastic PVC thing where you have put in for leading wires and whatnot. Okay, what we'll do there is we'll also recommend that we go for something a little more
Substantial?
something a little more marine quality than. Okay.
That was one of my temporaries.
So, well, it's a temporary thing, and it's good enough for now. But certainly, this is a spot where a lot of moisture ingression can take place because where you're leading wires or anything through, that's got to be just right.
Yep.
So,
Well, part of this project, Joe, is actually I have no problem showing some of my warts, some of my failures, and part of this whole project is not just to get me going and back to sea, but also to help some other people, maybe where they go wrong, and you know, and that's where you come in to show us the way.
show the process to some degree.
For example, last year we took all the teak deck off of here, as you remember, and I put all core, foam core, and new glass. So I'm hoping this is going to be dry.
Well, this is right here. And it sounds good.
All right.
Did you do any kind of resurfacing here? Did these cracks come back, or were they here originally?
They came back.
They came back.
Yeah, they came back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, a few minutes ago, we were looking over here just before, and you said there's a whole whack of moisture in here.
There's some moisture in here.
Here, let me get that out of the way.
Absolutely. And not only moisture, but we can also hear delamination. So again, this is something that we'll address from the interior to see what's going on, exactly what's going on.
Okay, good.
Have you seen what is in here? Have you seen what kind of
No.
coring materials or anything?
No, I haven't got in there.
You haven't opened this area.
No.
You've only opened the horror. Okay. But where my meter is right now is not a section that you have worked with.
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah, that's part that I.
That's part that
the
you.
core. Yeah. We
Okay.
took all this off. and we
Okay.
replaced it.
But you didn't touch this.
No.
So what we're seeing then is the wetting has already migrated from this area into your new substrate.
Really.
That's the only answer I can give you. Because the further we go away from, this is all new. You've rebuilt all
Well,
this.
not completely, but we'll look at it later.
Yeah.
We'll move on today, but we know there's an issue here, and we'll deal
the closer
with
the closer we come to this forward-facing bulkhead, as you can see, we start realizing more and more moisture.
that.
And then when we get right up to that, that's when it starts ringing the bell. Then it's got a lot of moisture in there. But this certainly sounds good as far as this is the final
Okay.
deciding factor. This is just giving us an idea, and we're interpreting. But this is what gives us the real answers. And yes, up here we can hear that delamination, as opposed to that. So the Traveler is a good unit. It's a Harken. I don't see any issues with it. And put the moisture meter on around. We're always looking for moisture wherever fastenings penetrate the deck, like the Harken Traveler's hardware, for example, right there, penetrating the deck. That's where we're looking for moisture. We have a little bit of moisture here, not so bad actually, right at the penetrations. But again, it's the cabin top. That's probably just continuation of what we've seen already.
Okay.
So
No beeping.
right.
No beeping.
yeah, nothing, no major issues.
Okay, good. All right. Let's move on up here then, Joseph, up to the cockpit area here.
Okay. All right. I know you guys did a lot of
I
work.
did a lot of work here. This was the same time as we did that forward deck. When I took the teak off here, all of the core, I guess it's like teak core they use. I'm not sure what they use, or balsa core.
It would either be balsa or some kind of plywood.
Okay, there was some kind of plywood in here, and it was an absolute swimming pool.
Mess.
Yeah, it was a mess. So we redid all this area, as you can see here.
Yeah, these little pockets.
Yeah, that was all
time.
collected with water. That's all been done.
Okay. Well, let's see how well it's been done. Hey, look at that. Dry. Ooh, sounds good.
All right.
That's what we like to hear.
That's what we like to hear.
That sounds good, man. Yeah.
Oh, good.
And
We'll get out
again,
of the
we're
way
not
here.
we're not getting any readings. I mean, cosmetically, like right now, it looks pretty poor, but it's a work in progress. Right?
Yes. Yes. This will again be teak at some point, and
Yeah.
all this will be teak facade.
Yeah,
on
veneer
here.
or
We're
something.
going to clean this up
Yeah.
and make it look pretty. Yes.
Here we have the mizzenmast footing.
And that's also with a compression post.
Yes. I'm expecting to see moisture here because you can see the cracks
Yeah.
in the gel coat. So those are always the telltale.
Right.
Yeah, if we get rid of the stuff here, we see.
Excuse my mess. Work in progress.
Yeah. Well, this here.
It's empty.
Yeah, it's empty. That's just it's just doing a lot of flexing because it's just fiberglass. So
Okay.
it's just gel coat cracks.
Okay.
You may get rid of it, and they may come back.
Okay.
But
All right. What do we do?
we've got some more moisture here.
See, it's all down this center, and this is like as we said. This deck was replaced about 6 years ago, more actually, about 7 years ago. Obviously, they never touched this, so that's where the moisture still is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, we have to see if what kind of core we have under here. We
Yeah.
don't really know. I expect it to be plywood, but Now you guys resealed this stack, but that was only a couple of years ago, wasn't it? And Wendy and
Wendy and I did it.
yeah. Okay. So we're seeing from the underside here. We can, but don't let the meter freak you out either, because from the underside we can do some core sampling of this area.
Okay.
And then we can decide what's in there. If it's plywood and it shows as much moisture as this, sometimes there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. If it's balsa and showing this much, then we got a problem, because balsa soaks it up like a sponge. Yep. But plywood can show quite a bit of moisture and still be in pretty good structural condition. Okay. Because it sounds okay. So from underneath we'll drill some core samples when we get into it, and
all right,
we'll decide what's really bad and what just looks bad.
All right. Well, should we go below or?
Yeah. Let me just. Okay. All along here, I expect this to be plywood actually. So sounds pretty good.
Okay, now we're on board. As you can hear, there's a little noise up in the bow. Joe's found some nasty stuff right up in the very point of the boat. So we're going to go down and have a look at that, and we'll catch him in progress. So you go ahead, Billy, and I'll come in behind you, buddy. What do you got, Joe?
Well, sir, we have a few things what we call a nightmare in this business. And we have some pretty rotten wooden substrates of the foredeck.
Okay.
We have bulkheads here. The tabbing, the secondary tabbing had let go. This particular bulkhead here is fractured on the on this side. On the other side of it, you can see the tabbing that had let go. Mm-hmm. And the most importantly, what we have under the foredeck is very important to address, because the foredeck is a very important structural part of the boat. So we do need to address that. That's going to be a big job, Dale. Okay. That's a big job. And then the tabbing of this little bulkhead here, if that's all we had, that we would be in better shape. Okay, but we've got more issues than that. Under here, we have another bulkhead that's pretty much saturated, what we call saturated plywood. It sounds saturated and it looks saturated. If you look at this, the forward side of this bulkhead, yeah, you can see the waves, the swelling of the plywood. Mm-hmm. Now, as far as the interior of the hull is concerned, the hull sides, which are these, that looks bad, but there's no issues with that. It's just paint cracking. Okay. So, in this, to sum it up, what we have in the bow is quite a bit of work that we have to address.
Okay.
Watch the underside of the foredeck. Yeah.
Okay, we're still under the foredeck here, only back in the V berth. We can see where I've torn out all the vinyl that was hiding this nightmare. This electrics will come out in my mind. And here's the capstan that I was showing you earlier that I want gone, because if I'm going to charter, I want this to be a nice cabin.
Sure.
Yeah. So you
well, that's a good headbanger for sure.
Yeah. What do you see here now?
Well, obviously, what we have here is the coring of the foredeck is missing, because we have the FRP outer skin. Yeah. But under all this, originally the builder and the designer had made provisions for a plywood substrate or plywood.
Some of that still exists.
Some of it. Yeah. So what we're looking at here is we're going to have to replace some of it, or actually we have to replace the whole thing. We have to laminate, and we'll have to what we use because it has a lot of waviness to it. Yeah. What we use then is there's a laminating putty that we can use, that builders use, where you have a flat piece of plywood, but you have a wavy substrate to adhere to. Then we take up the voids with the laminating putty.
What do we see here? Here's the door aid, which has got that's the door aid where the air comes in.
Right. Well, what is that?
Let me hold that light for you, buddy.
Oh, that's again, we got plywood there. This is old. This is again old plywood.
Yeah.
We gotta tear all that out, or to some degree address it.
Okay. All right.
And we may want to use. We may be able to use foam up here too. You know that instead of plywood.
Alrighty.
But certainly the electrical wiring will be gone because it's non-compliant to any of our standards or anything.
Okay, good.
Whatever we're doing here will be at least as close to our standard compliance as possible.
To be honest with you, there's no big surprises here for me. I was fairly aware you were going to tell me all of this information today.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was talking. Sorry.
Okay, guys, here we are in the forward head. Again, we have issues where rotten plywood core is evident, and this is the continuation of where we were forward a few minutes ago. So it's nothing that's surprising. We knew that as we're moving aft, we're going to be continuously running into this thing. So we have the fiberglass skin. What we need to do again is just properly laminate the core, which actually is the structural strength of the whole thing. Right now, what we're looking at is all the structural strength of the deck is gone.
So that's
in
why
this
all the
area.
flexing.
That's why all the
Okay.
flexing.
All right.
That's why you can't keep your teak decks sealed up.
Huh. All right. Well, there you go.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You can see this chain that we're looking at.
Okay.
Tell us what we're looking at
there, Joe.
Okay, what we're looking at here is one of your shroud chain plates.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's going through solid fiberglass laminate, so we're not doing too bad as far as that is concerned. But certainly, you have talked about beefing this up.
Mm-hmm.
That certainly is a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as bulkheads and structural wooden core is concerned, again, we are looking at the same problems.
Mm-hmm. I think we'll find that all the way through.
All the way. And here's a good example of tabbing, secondary FRP tabbing, letting go. That's what we're seeing right here.
Yep. Are you recording?
Mm-hmm. Okay, here we are in the aft stateroom of the Snake and the Rose. And again, no surprises. It's the same thing as what we saw further forward. You've already removed a lot of the facade that was covering up all this mess. So you're not being surprised.
No.
I'm not telling you anything you don't already know.
Okay.
We need to replace the core so the decks can be stiff and structurally integrity back.
Okay. Recording here, and here we are at the steering station here, the rudder, the top end.
We're up in the lazarette here with the rudder post and the steering actuating cylinder. We have the exhaust here, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, we checked to make sure that the seacock is still workable, the valve.
Yeah.
It works. This is
I disconnected
a
that.
leftover of a rudder angle indicator.
Yep.
And as far as these components, mechanical components are concerned here, everything looks good. Everything looks good. I thought this was a weld for a minute, but no, it's grease. Mm-hmm. So it looks good. This looks good as far as the mechanical components are concerned. We have some corroded clamps that need to be replaced, but that's not a big deal. Okay. And here we have a bladder tank, which is probably for your aft head.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's about it. The hull is under us here. The hull is in good condition as always. The hull is the least of our worries. We have a good hull, so good solid fiberglass hull. So
good.
And as far as we have a little bit of the tabbing here, again, this is what we call the secondary tabbing. It's coming. off. It's detaching. It's delaminating, but that's because obviously at one time in the life of the boat she was wet pretty much everywhere. Okay. These can be reattached very easily. That's not a big deal.
No, that was there when I bought.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, what we're looking at here is the shroud blades for the mizzen on the port side, and pretty substantial stainless plating. We're going to pull the fasteners because we want to see what condition the coring is in that laminate. We have the bonding wires here, which is perfect. That's a good. It's well designed, at least in regards to lightning protection. And I'm sure these will turn out okay on the inside. Again, we have the same thing up here, where we're looking at issues through the deck.
Everywhere. We know that's everywhere.
That's all right. And the bulkhead in here too, Dale. You see that?
Yep. Okay, let's
That
move on.
bulkhead.
Move on.
See, that's. This is how it should sound. Right? It's easy to tell the difference.
There we go.
Okay, so what we're looking at here is a shore power disconnect main breaker switch, which is obviously an obsolete and old, non-compliant. We're going to be rewiring this boat, so all this will be gone. There. And here we have a very good example of a bulkhead that is a plywood bulkhead, and it's a rotten plywood bulkhead. So this is a transverse bulkhead, meaning it goes from one side of the boat over to the other side. And again, this is something we're going to have to cut into and correct as well.
Okay.
Is he rolling?
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're looking at here is some of the work that Dale had started in regards to the structural components. Here's a bulkhead that was replaced, and there's a transverse frame that he had replaced and tapped into the hull. This will certainly require some more attention in regards to cleaning up and continue with the work, but it's a beginning.
All right.
Okay, now we're at the navigation station, and this is the AC and DC panels. AC, DC. The AC panels actually look somewhat more modern than. I don't know if you didn't put them in.
No, that was in there.
Okay. When we open this up, what we see is typical for Taiwanese installation. It isn't really a bad installation. It's fairly orderly, but as far as color coding is concerned, it totally sucks. I mean, they would use red when they had red, yellow when they had yellow, and none of it makes any sense. Okay. That's just typical for Taiwanese. Okay. You know, when we're going to rewire the boat, we're going to use the right color coding, and we're going to be sticking to the standards that are applicable to all this. Okay. So this is just something that's obviously going to be gone and made a whole lot better than what it is now.
Good. All right.
Okay, Billy, come on. Okay, we've seen the rest of the boat. We're going to go into the engine compartment here, and Joe's just sniffing around in here now. He's getting a first look at it. And come on down and have a look, and we'll get Joe to just to give us a quick little look at this.
Okay, what we have here is a nice little Ford Layman, one of the better engines, and company who made it, American Diesel, and Mr. Smith, the owner of that company, is still in business, and he still talks to all his clients and tells you everything you need to know about these engines and parts and availability and everything else.
That's good.
So that's a good thing.
Okay. And the Raycons over there, they look pretty good, eh?
The Raycor filters, yes, there's two Raycors. That's a good setup. Mm-hmm. Muffler system looks good. Mm-hmm. Here's your helm reservoir.
I think there's a bit, actually speaking of that, I think there's a bit of a leak in the hydraulics, but we'll deal with that as we go.
Oh yeah, that's the least of our worries right now. We have, I'm looking at the stringers here, and that's the engine bearers, what the engine sits on. As far as I can get at it right now with my moisture meter, there does not appear to be any issues with the stringers.
Good.
Which is a good thing, because if they're really wet and saturated, that would mean the engine has to come up.
I do know though, Joe, I need motor mounts.
Yeah, at this time of the at this time of the in the life of the boat, you probably do.
Okay, good.
I'm gonna have to get at those stringers later on and see exactly what's going on, but I don't know. I don't think we're gonna find any nightmares with the stringers, but I cannot tell you for sure right now. Okay, Dale?
Good, thanks, Joe.
I do see.
Actually,
I do see some. I do see some bulkheads.
Alrighty.
We're rolling.
Okay, so Joe, we've had our first look at the boat. Well, not we. You've had your first look at the boat. I think we found a few things that I wasn't quite aware of. Most of it, I think, I was aware of. We've got a lot of work to do. Comments?
Well, I have a pretty good idea of what we're doing and what we're biting off.
Okay, so this is obviously just a very first blush. Obviously, Joe's going to have a closer look at the boat. To do a proper survey on this boat, obviously, he would spend a half a day over here doing this. But Joe's on board for the whole haul here, and he's going to be looking at it on occasion. And I'd like to thank you for coming out, my friend.
Absolutely, Captain Dale.
And I look forward to
Absolutely.
a finished product and having some fun.
Yes.